Duke's history. 4 straight Final Fours. 5 of the last 6, a national title. This is what happened earlier this year. Talking to Matt Geiger, he says he was totally outplayed by Leitner in the first game. Said he thought he played fairly even with Leitner in the second game, but then had foul trouble.
One of the things I think that's a key for Georgia Tech, their defense does a great job holding down the opponent in terms of field goal percentage. Under 42% for the year. You get a look at the series history. In both the Duke games, the Blue Devils shot over 50%. So Duke is one of those teams that's able to get the ball close to the basket and score.
Opening tip controlled by Duke.
Georgia Tech starts in the man-to-man defense. Malcolm Mackey is going to match up against Leitner. Geiger is going to guard Brian Davis. This is an interesting turn of events.
It certainly is. We talked about this at breakfast. We thought it would be advantageous for them to try that. They did. Davis
well,
with 2 is sure.
What you do is you make Davis shoot the ball from the outside. Geiger obviously is going to hang around in the middle, so in effect you'll have double team action on either Antonio Lang or Leitner inside.
Also, it's quickness against quickness. Inside to Berry, tough shot, fight for the boards. Mackey takes it back up strong. And the possession arrow belongs to Georgia Tech.
Got a held ball call. We talked about Georgia Tech's size inside. Malcolm Mackey making that size felt on the very first offensive possession with the offensive rebound.
Best loses the handle. Ahead they go to Hurley, broken up by Mackey. Good aggressive defense by Tech. Hurley tries to make something happen, can't. Ball's on the ground, and Davis banks it in.
I'd like to see that play diagram, please, sir.
Last touch by Davis.
Duke, of course, has the reputation for getting out and running. And there, Christian Leitner and Brian Davis. Davis really got in the face of John Berry and started woofing at him. Leitner correcting him. Here's the, I don't know that you can call that a shovel pass as much as a trickle through the lane.
Berry's shot off the front.
That's a great play by Best because Davis was alone under the basket. Duke trying to push it.
Forrest tries to go inside. That was last touch by John Berry, and the Blue Devils will take over.
Georgia Tech, particularly John Berry, looks like they're trying to push the ball very hard early. You wonder if that doesn't sort of play into the hands of the Duke Blue Devils, who are very, very good at pushing the ball up the court. Again, here's the Georgia Tech man-to-man with Geiger matched up against Davis.
Nice follow inside. Lang tips it in.
Nice movement to the board. Forrest has to block him out.
Davis bumped Forrest, no call. Now Forrest goes up with a jumper off balance and can't get it to go down.
Georgia Tech really hasn't had an uncontested shot yet, Tim.
4-0 Duke. 17:55 to go, first half. Tim Brandt, Dan Bonner with you.
They're just daring Davis to shoot that long jump shot.
Hill is short. And Georgia Tech takes control. Again, Berry pushes it hard on the transition. Best will fire, and it's still off the iron. Tech can't get on the board. Hurley takes it the distance.
A lot of running up and down and not very much results so far.
Mackey has him on the board. It's a 4-2 Duke lead.
Interesting to see how Duke adjusts to this defense, what Brian Davis is going to do with the basketball. The last time he penetrated to the basket, forced Berry to come and help, and that's a pretty good strategy.
Leitner takes it into the paint, gets lost, and Lang has to try to make a save and can't.
Tim, and that's an excellent description of what happened with the kind of defense that Georgia Tech is playing. They are, in effect, waiting for Mike Krzyzewski's center to come into the lane. He was swallowed up by black jerseys.
Very rarely do you see Leitner dribble into trouble. No question he did that time. Geiger with a rebound. Foul will be called on Davis, I believe.
So far, Georgia Tech has done a pretty good job on the offensive backboard, Tim. That's a couple of second chance opportunities that they have gotten.
That's the first on Davis, first team foul against Duke. And Forrest is at the line. James Forrest, 70% free throw shooter, had 9 points yesterday. Georgia High School Player of the Year last season, averaged 30 points a game.
Built like that, 30 points, a couple of takedowns, probably.
It's a 4-3 game. Davis. Last touch by Georgia Tech.
You can see Davis is sort of in between, trying to decide what he's going to do. It's not really to his advantage to take it at Geiger. Geiger just stands there with his hands up in the air, and Davis is going to have a tough time getting the ball over top.
Leitner trying desperately to get a shot off. Nice dish down to Davis underneath.
Well, that's the idea. Geiger comes and double teams Leitner, but you notice Davis went right to the basket, and Leitner found him. Excellent play. Boy, Hurley keeps great pressure on the ball.
Mackey to Geiger. He's wide open, doesn't take the shot. Best will. Leitner with another rebound. That's for three.
You know, if you're Mackey, you got to get out there and guard it.
Leitner has now hit 20 of his last 29 three-point attempts. He has been on a tear.
That's just a tremendous defensive job by Hurley.
Running one-hander by Ferry, and he's fouled. Foul is on Leitner. That's his first.
One of the things that Bobby Hurley does as well as anybody in the country playing point guard is pressure the basketball. His head is just right on the ball. He's constantly, those hands are moving. That's extremely difficult for anybody to see what you want to do on offense. You know, if the guard's able to stand out there, Tim, and look and take his time to see the options develop, that's one thing, but this guy doesn't let you do that.
Brian Davis gets a breather. Grant Hill is into the ball game now.
It's a pretty nice luxury. You take a guy like Davis out of the game and put a guy like Hill in.
Isn't that the truth? 9-4, the Duke Blue Devils lead. 15-16 to go in the first half. Now a word from our good friends at Budweiser.
Tim, we were talking about Georgia Tech's strategy, having Geiger guard Davis and then come to double team Leitner. But if you're going to pick up Leitner out by the free throw line, that is, if Geiger is going to double team by the free throw line, that gives Davis lots of room. Look here, Geiger goes. Now Davis has a lot of room to just sort of slip to the basket. Geiger cannot double team Leitner until he gets closer to the basket, because otherwise he's got an excellent passing lane.
2 men on me. Somebody's got to be free is the old poem, and it works every time.
Well, but if he's got that much room to operate is the point, though, Tim. As you saw that replay, Travis Best had him covered out by the free throw line, but then Geiger was gone for so long that Davis had plenty of opportunity. Georgia Tech, gee, they must have been watching film of that Virginia game yesterday.
9-4 Duke. Hurley drifts to the left elbow, looks for help.
This is a tough matchup for Forrest.
Nice penetration by Hurley, and he's fouled. Call this foul on John Barry. That is his first.
I think they got Travis Best, Tim.
It is. You're right. Correction, Travis Best. Even Barry thought it was on him.
Barry just looks naturally guilty. Here you see Hurley putting it on the deck. Best not really in good position right there. Hurley seeing that he had a lane to the basket and took it, and Best slapped him across the arm. Hurley means so much to this Duke basketball team.
80% free throw shooter. I think he really grew up in a tournament late last year and now is at the top of his game. Still trying to get back, I think, into some condition after the injury to his foot.
He said yesterday that he thought he was just about there.
Best with a nice dish to Forrest. He was pushed from behind, no call.
Woo! He was pushed from behind, but the person who pushed him from behind was Travis Best, Tim. Best coming down the lane in the middle, did a nice job getting through the defense, but he couldn't stop. He dumped the ball to Forrest and ran into him. Man-to-man for the Blue Devils.
Geiger's first shot of the day. Forrest gets it back. And the foul underneath. Will go the other side.
I think the foul's going to be called against Malcolm Mackey, pushing inside. It's really the first time today, Tim, that the ball has gone down inside to Matt Geiger against Christian Laettner. He got the ball to the basket. In fact, had 2 point-blank range opportunities and missed them. Yellow Jackets have to convert those shots. Heck, they'd be happy. They're shooting 1 for 11 to convert any shot.
Hill with a great penetration.
Grumman shaking his head over on the bench. Okay, what do we do now, guys? You turn to your assistants.
Geiger on Laettner. Laettner much quicker. Steals it. And it's a 3-on-2. Way outside to Hurley for 2.
They can get down and convert the fast break, can't they, Tim?
They are the best at it.
Florida State crew is not far behind.
Geiger has it slapped away again by Laettner. The over-the-top pass.
Oh, what a play by Grant Hill. How did he find Lang?
And Hurley will reset.
We played 7 minutes and Georgia Tech only has 4 points.
Hurley in the paint, kicks back to Lang. Lang to Laettner. To Thomas Hill. And it'll be Georgia Tech basketball. Last touch by Antonio Lang. 12:44 to go in the first half, and Duke out to a 15-4 lead.
Bobby Cremins with some substitutions, hoping to change the pace of this basketball game. His defensive scheme hasn't really worked that well, simply because he can't score on the offensive end. Doesn't matter how well you play defense, you can't put the ball in the basket.
Brian Hill comes into the game along with Ivana Newbill. Travis Best. Georgia Tech trying to stop an 11-1 run by the Blue Devils.
Duke's defense is really very good so far in this basketball game. Not only are they pressuring the ball effectively, but they're cutting off passing lanes.
Mackey is fouled by Cherokee Parks. That'll be his first.
Parks gave the Blue Devils some real quality minutes in yesterday's victory over Maryland.
He did do that. Boy, he was strong when he came in.
Mike Krzyzewski was really pleased with him. He'd like to see Parks give him that again. Now, Parks is just banging against Mackey, but Mackey with that great strength catches the ball where he wants to, wheels to the basket. Parks gets that body on him, and you can see the look of disgust on the young man's face right there. Georgia Tech needs to do more of that.
Malcolm Mackey, as solid of a player as he is, does struggle at the line. 68% free throw shooter. And he makes them both. Only had 7 points yesterday. Very quiet that game against Virginia. Hill got away with a walk. He actually slipped. Here comes Laettner now, looking for help.
That's a nice job there. Spring the quick trap on Davis, but what a great play to get out.
Hurley goes to the baseline, to Parks, to Laettner, who fires from 15.
Georgia Tech played pretty good defense on that possession, too. Great ball movement by Duke. Jackets got to get it done on this end, Tim.
11-point lead. Berry fires from outside. The long rebound taken down by Christian Laettner. And here come the Blue Devils again. wanted the three. Did you see that?
Barry did a nice job cutting it off.
Nice defense by Mackey, or correction by Newbill.
We're seeing a clinic right now.
Davis makes it a 19-6 ball game.
I think Georgia Tech really needs to work on the offensive end at getting the ball inside. They've been too quick to accept that perimeter jump shot. It's not going in the basket. Get it to your big guys inside. Hurley's just doing a tremendous job. We get a 5-second call.
Inexperience there. Best was not even aware of the count that was taking place right next to him. 10:38 to go in the first half. 19-6 is our score.
Duke very impressive, off to the 13-point lead. Now, as we watch this replay, look at the Georgia Tech players in the background. Everybody's sort of standing around. Best has Hurley right in his face. Nobody's moved yet for Georgia Tech. Now Brian Hill's going to cut across the lane, and Newbill pops out, but it's too late. Hurley's already got it. Now watch this. You'll get an opportunity to see what the Georgia Tech offensive setup is. Right there, Hurley has him. Now you tell me where best options are. He doesn't have any. His teammates simply are not moving, and Hurley is harassing him and creating the turnover. Georgia Tech simply not playing well on offense at all. They're shooting 8%. Virginia was shot 24% yesterday, and we thought that was cold. That was on fire compared to what Georgia Tech is doing.
Travis Best also has to be aware of the count, when the pressure is on and when he's out of the 5-second range. Hill is on, foul is on Hill.
Tim, he could have been aware of the count all day long, and if nobody's going to go anywhere, to give him an opportunity to throw the ball.
Man, he still penetrated guard. Nobody does that better than Hurley. He always glances over to see the count and where that defensive player is in reference to him.
Good catch.
Parks gets the roll.
Boy, that's an aggressive play. Gee, he must have liked those minutes yesterday.
Hill gets tied up.
They can't run their offense, Tim.
Hill with an off-balance shot, last touch by Leitner. Be sure to stay tuned at halftime for the Norwegian Cruise Line Trivia Contest. You can win a great cruise for two. Totally frustrated right now, Georgia Tech. A little bit befuddled, certainly out of rhythm.
Man-to-man defense by Duke has totally disrupted the game.
Another turnover. Here comes a 3-on-1. Davis takes it the distance and banks it in.
Bobby Cremins calling a timeout.
They're on their feet. 9:22 to go first half. 23-6. Now a word from our good friends at Bud Light.
Duke with a 17-point lead, and you know, Tim, people talk about team defense. Here, Barry's going to penetrate. Watch Parks come to help, and then Leitner rotates over, steals the ball. Look at how quickly Davis gets out. All the defense in the world is nice, but unless you can convert on the other end, you're sort of wasting your time, and Duke converts as well as anybody. Bobby Cremins really has to figure out some way to change the rhythm of this basketball game. His team in danger of getting destroyed early.
6 turnovers, and as you mentioned, no one is rubbing off to free up from the aggressive defense of Duke. Can't get off a clean shot. It's a 19-3 Duke run. Barry goes a 3 from Barry.
Well, if they can make some of those perimeter shots, that may loosen the defense. Georgia Tech has not played that poorly on the defensive end of the court. They just can't get the ball to go in the basket on the other end.
Nice defense by Barry that time, denying the pass.
You can't get discouraged if you're Georgia Tech. You've got to continue to play hard on both ends of the court and hope things turn around for you. trying to attack Hurley. Best with some pretty good pressure against Hurley, and Barry trying to come up with a steal. That's his first personal foul. That's a good aggressive play.
Barry's got 64 steals on the year, so he is aggressive.
So he can convert those steals too.
Bobby Hurley fires for three. He now has 7 points.
You get this far down to Duke, and you've just, I mean, you've dug yourself a giant hole.
That's an understatement. Mackey takes it up strong and drills it.
Well, you've got to figure that Georgia Tech is going to heat up, but you'll notice that every pass on that possession and the shot, everything's contested.
Air ball by Davis, saved by Lang. How sweet is that?
What a play by Hurley.
Thomas Hill makes it a 28-11 ball game. Duke way out in front. And they're calling the push on Geiger.
Been a frustrating day for that guy. I mean, he's had 2 shots at the basket. They were both point-blank range, and he missed them both. That time he got called for the push. This is a Georgia Tech team that comes into this game playing very well. Winners of 5 of their last 6 games. The only loss at Chapel Hill to North Carolina in a game where they felt they did not play that poorly and they had opportunities to win. This may be out of their hands already.
Lang with a nice pump fake is fouled by Geiger. That's 2 on Matt.
And Newbill is going to get up and come on in the ball game. And it's funny for Georgia Tech, sort of so goes Geiger, so go the Yellow Jackets. He's really played well over this last stretch of 6 games, and nothing but frustration for the young man today.
Well, when they went in the tank in February and had one of the worst Februarys they've ever had, one of the reasons was the coaches said the big guys just disappeared. Lang puts the 29th point on the board for the Blue Devils.
Bobby Cremins and the coaching staff for Georgia Tech have to be wishing at the moment that some of these Blue Devils have disappeared.
Boy, when Lang starts hitting them at the line like that, he's only a 62% free throw shooter. They can't do anything wrong here. You voted for the Dream Team. Now get the video. Stay tuned at halftime for details on how to order the True Value ACC Dream Team home video. What called this one on Antonio Lang?
Mackey did a nice job getting position inside. Duke keeps such good pressure on the basketball that sometimes you can't find those guys open inside. Here Mackey battling against Lang. Right now Mackey's open, still open. Now they throw him the ball just as Lang is coming across. They're fortunate to get the foul.
One of the few wide open shots they've had. Here goes the transition again. Hurley. And Hill could not handle the pass.
It was not a good pass. Mike Krzyzewski was glad to see his team get out and run yesterday, but he was concerned that they didn't finish off a lot of those fast break opportunities, and there again, they failed to finish one off. Hill tries to catch too many more of those. He's going to have back problems in addition to his ankle problem.
Big follow inside. The Leitner will get the call. Mackey will go to the line.
Leitner gave it the old excuse me with the right knee, and Mackey went stumbling out of bounds.
Actually, the foul was before the shot. So Georgia Tech will bring it in. Ryan Davis will come back in along with Cherokee Parks. Leitner will get a breather, and Thomas Hill will sit down for Duke.
Parks can give Duke the kind of quality minutes that he did yesterday, and in fact has done so far in this game. That makes the Blue Devils, frighteningly enough, a much better team.
John Barry for 3. Brett Vincent in the ball game now as Travis Best gets a break.
Georgia Tech has both of their three-point artists in the game, Barry and Vincent. Still a 16-point game, though.
Good idea. Poor execution by Hurley.
Nice defense by Barry.
Vincent to Barry. He triggers it from there. Good hustle by Forrest. Grant Hill. Hurley's wide open at the other end. And missed the layup. But Forrest can't handle it. Great steal by Barry. And the foul on Cherokee Parks. The emotion of John Barry.
I'm telling you what, Barry, the last couple of possessions, both offensively and defensively, has been nearly maniacal out on the court.
16 fouls.
What hustle right there. You know, I saw something on that play. Watch as Hurley misses the layup. Look at Hurley's reaction. The play's still going on, but he's hanging his head pouting. And Mike Krzyzewski surely doesn't want to see that. John Barry's not pouting. What a play.
Trying to cut into that 16-point lead. Here comes Barry working on Hurley. Mackey, strong move.
Maybe Barry's got him going a little bit, Tim.
5:05 to go in the first half. Hill pulls up. How sweet is he?
Let Hurley take a break and put Hill out there on the point.
Wow. Mackey puts it on the floor. Barry fires from 3. And Hurley's out in front again. But look at the hustle by John Barry.
Barry may have hurt himself.
He never touched you. He got you away, but he didn't touch you. I can't call him for that.
You can hear official Steve Gordon saying to John Barry, he never touched you. Barry down. Ooh, boy. See, now Barry, he's not gonna concede that he's hurt until the play's over. He was still up there. You could see on that replay, he's turning around trying to find the ball. Great hustle.
No question about the adrenaline flow in Barry. The last 3 trips he's been on the ground.
This looks like one of those mascots. Well, here's Barry now with the shot. Tremendous rebound by Grant Hill. Then the pitch ahead to Hurley. Barry's just not willing to let that go. Down he goes. Boom, his chin hits the court. See, now he's up. Now he's looking around. Now the ball's out of bounds. Okay, it's all right to be hurt. This is one tough customer.
The announcers for this game were selected and compensated by Raycom and Jefferson Pilot Schools. Any use of this broadcast without their express permission is prohibited. The hand for John Barry. 4 minutes and 32 seconds remaining in the first half. You see what John Barry has done, just 7 points. And the Blue Devils lead the Yellow Jackets 32-16. Tim Brandt and Dan Bonner with you, the first of 2 semifinal games in the ACC Tournament today.
Easy, guys.
Mackey with a steal. You would think that kind of effort that Barry put forth would fire up the rest of his team.
Well, being fired up and attacking the Duke Blue Devils may be 2 very different things.
Mackey 3 of 3. The rest of the team 2 of 19. I'd go to Mackey in that case.
You know, you probably coach this week.
Hill with the penetration, and he knocks his head on the floor. I don't know why they don't stop play. Hill's still down. Now they do.
Just stay right here, Coleman. Just don't get up. Stay right here. Stay right here. Don't even try to get up. No, just stay right here. Don't go down.
Brian Hill is woozy. 3:41 to go, first half.
Go down, Alex. Are you okay?
Duke with a 14-point lead, and one of the reasons is that Georgia Tech has had to work extremely hard for everything they get. Here, Hill finds a lane to the basket, but watch his head bounce off the court. Boy, does that hurt. Bobby Cremins, he'll take it any way he can get it. He's got that 2 points. That's the most important thing right now. Hill is up. He's back over sitting on the bench. He's had a really tough time. He had an ice pack on his head yesterday, and it looks like they're getting out that Brad Nessler honorary ice pack, and it's going to be on Hill's head again.
John Barry comes back into the ball game. The biggest Duke lead was 19 points. It's down to 14. Barry, of course, has been the guy to ignite that, and he comes back in after his injury.
Hill and Barry both hustling, but for Georgia Tech, 6 of 23 shooting. That's 26%. Duke's 13 of 21 for 62%. So it's not surprising that we have the kind of score that we do.
Davis is short with his shot, but it's a long rebound, and he gets it back. Oh, my. Oh, and he made it. Oh, it was a prayer. That even gets a smile on Brian Davis's face.
I don't know that it's going to bring much of a smile to Mike Krzyzewski, though. He was up saying something today. I don't think it was a nice shot.
And it got the smile off Davis's face very fast. See, now that's the penetration he should have had the last time. Oh, good follow inside and the foul. Mackey will go to the line this time. Foul on Hill.
Mike Krzyzewski has Thomas Hill and Bobby Hurley over.
That is the first on Grant Hill.
Got to be careful with that penetration by Travis Best. What he did was he drew the defense. Tim gets it to Mackey. Mackey, however, can't convert the free throw. Mackey with 8 points and 3 rebounds thus far.
He's only a 68% free throw shooter. We told you that before. He missed the first one and misses the second one. Benson with a rebound.
Good pass. Nice catch.
Mackey takes it into the paint with a turnaround and gets the bounce. He now has 10 points. Miami beats Ball State 58-57. Seton Hall over Syracuse.
A lot of people think that Seton Hall team is going to be a very dangerous team in the upcoming NCAA tournament.
I agree with those people. PJ's got him playing extremely well.
Nice pass.
Hill is fouled by Vincent.
You got an opportunity the last time Georgia Tech had the ball, Tim, to see what dribble penetration can do. Travis Best took it inside. Mackey came open. He got him the ball. That time, Duke penetrates the defense with the pass, and naturally, if Leitner has the ball close to the basket, he's going to draw some attention. Thomas Hill made a nice cut.
Thomas Hill has 2 points. Outstanding defensive player. Had 12 points yesterday in a solid game against the Terps. Hurt his hand a little bit yesterday, diving for a loose ball.
He hits that one. You know, Leitner's out of the ball game. There's Christian sitting on the bench. Antonio Lang came in the ball game for him. So Duke with a relatively small lineup in the game.
Of course, Georgia Tech has a small lineup in as well. Newble's not in, and Geiger has also continued to rest.
Mackey, however, has been very effective inside, so it'll be interesting to see what Antonio Lang can do with the big guy.
Mackey continues to work hard, too. This is Fars with the turnaround. Air ball. Here goes that transition again. Numbers aren't there. They kick it way outside to Hurley. What a first step by Hurley, and he puts it in.
Duke's certainly operating on all cylinders here in this first half.
The lead is back to 18 with 1:45 to go in the first half. It's been all Duke. Best can't buy a basket.
Well, I'm telling you what, that was a very, very tough shot. The reason he can't buy a basket is because he's got that guy number 11 all over him.
Grant, you have it on top. Open cross with Bobby.
How about Mike Krzyzewski over there? You can hear him all over the Coliseum. He's working as hard as the players today.
Grant has it on top, and they're going to do open cross to Bobby.
There's the cross. Here's Bobby, and the kick outside to Lang. Come away with no points. Couldn't get into their secondary offense after the first phase.
Well, one of the reasons you can hear Mike Krzyzewski all over the Coliseum is that it's very quiet.
Nice pass to Hill. And he's fouled. Right over top of James Forrest. Wow.
Would you say that Duke is doing a little bit better job today converting the fast break, my friend?
Unquestionably.
Nobody from Georgia Tech except Barry going to the boards. Duke has 4 guys rebounding. Georgia Tech has 1. It's a foregone conclusion. What a one-handed catch. And then the strength to dunk it in.
Maryland's transition defense yesterday was fairly solid, though. Georgia Tech is getting caught 3-on-1s, 3-on-2s as Hill converts. Bucky Waters made an interesting comment to me yesterday. Talking about Grant Hill, said potentially he's the greatest player Duke has ever had. That's a strong comment. Paul Cameron will have scores and highlights for you at halftime. Vincent hits it.
That's the game clock. The shot clock has about 4 fewer seconds on it, so Duke can run it down to about 4 before they shoot.
35 seconds to half. Shot clock at 25. His foul is on John Barry, and he doesn't like that call at all.
It was a good idea by Barry. Grant Hill is penetrating to the basket under some heavy pressure from Vincent. Watch Barry. He's guarding Thomas Hill. Hill leaves, but Barry stays. Never really got himself established in Grant Hill's path. He's upset with the call, but it is a good one.
That's his second.
Never got there. One guy. 1 and 1.
So Grant Hill goes to the line, shooting 1 and 1.
To hear the voices of the officials in this very quiet Coliseum telling John Barry that he never got there.
Hill hits the first. Extremely versatile player, no question about that.
He's got 8 points now.
He's played the point, the 2-spot, power forward.
Now has 9 points. He's also got 4 rebounds. Now Duke's going to press.
20 seconds left. Barry to the baseline. 8 seconds. 5 seconds left in the half. Mackey will score it, and that'll do it. A strong performance by the top-ranked Blue Devils of Duke. Our score at halftime: Duke 43, Georgia Tech 25. When we come back, Paul Cameron will take you through our halftime activities.
Today's game is brought to you by Jefferson Pilot Life Insurance Company, Norwegian Cruise Line, Buick, Nations Bank, Food Lion, True Value Hardware, and by Domino's Pizza. If you call Domino's now, you'll be enjoying our new Better Than Ever pizza during the second half. Be enjoying our new pizza with more melted cheese, big, better toppings, and a tender, tastier crust.
Stay tuned for the Nations Bank Players of the Game Award. Nations Bank will contribute $1,000 to the Atlantic Coast Conference to be distributed among the member institutions under a conference-approved plan. That's the Nations Bank Players of the Game to be awarded near the end of our telecast. U.S. Air halftime statistics. Dan, you alluded to these at halftime, and they are not a pretty sight for Tech.
Duke's defense, of course, is one of the big reasons for that 30% field goal shooting. Georgia Tech just has not had very many uncontested shots. You see the rebounds are fairly even, the turnovers fairly even. Duke with 10 points off the turnovers, but Duke has really been turning the missed baskets into opportunities where they get down the court. You see Duke shooting it very well from the field. They're perfect from the free throw line. This is a Duke team that's playing extremely well. The people around here have been talking about the Duke of January. Well, the Duke of January seems to be back.
We also talked about Brian Davis before the game and how well he played yesterday. Coach K singling him out after the game yesterday. He's got 10 points in the first half, so he's picking up right where he left off. Bobby Hurley, 9 points, 2 assists, and Christian Laettner just 5 points, but he has really been dishing and making things happen in the paint.
Laettner has only taken 3 shots. The impressive person today, in addition to Brian Davis, has been Grant Hill. Coming back from that injury, he's played an extremely solid basketball game.
43-25, Duke. That play created by Barry. Here comes Best, 3-on-1. Barry fires for 3 on the transition. See some strategy right off the bat. Instead of the layup, they go for the 3. And Brian Davis comes right back and scores.
Of course, Georgia Tech shoots the 3-point basket very well, so they'd be well advised to go to it. There, however, Laettner steps in and gets another steal.
Again, the high pass over top everything in the transition, the easy snowbird layup for Hurley.
Playing against the Duke Blue Devils, you've got to constantly be aware of floor balance, and Georgia Tech just not doing a good job getting back on defense, and Duke is really making them pay for it.
Remember a conversation I had with Pat Kennedy earlier in the year, and he says one thing you have to do against Duke is stop the transition because they're going to score the layups and also the back door. If you do that, you have a shot.
Mackey again gets the ball inside. Bobby Cremins has to be pleased with that.
Early drifts to the right elbow to Laettner, who frees up at the top of the key down the hill, and that'll be the 3rd personal on Barry.
You know, even if you stop the transition game for Duke, they play very well in the half-court offense. Once Christian Laettner and Thomas Hill exchange inside, Laettner comes off the double screen. There's Hill now stepping in. That's a perfectly executed offensive play. And from that angle, it really looks good. You can clearly see the kind of screening activity that goes on, and you can clearly see that Georgia Tech did not do a very good job defending that screening activity.
Hill makes it a 21-point lead, and that is the largest of the game.
Now, of course, there's that rule this year that you have to have your shirt tucked in, and Hill has it tucked in the front and out in the back. I guess it doesn't say how much you have to have tucked in. Just a little bit counts.
That's the time remaining in the ball game. Barry, great idea. Last touch by Duke. It'll be Georgia Tech basketball.
Well, that kind of penetration generally will create some opportunity inside if you can find a passing lane, but Duke cut it off very effectively.
Lang knocks this out of bounds. So quiet in here today. Sounds like a library. Very unusual for the ACC tournament.
Well, I think this was a game that people expected to be a much more closely contested ball game than it has been, but the Duke Blue Devils just really playing well.
Shot was blocked by Laettner. Here comes the transition, 3-on-2. Davis takes it the distance, and he's fouled. And that'll be 4 on Barry.
And Georgia Tech, Tim, continues to be just a step slow. There's a big crowd of people in the middle of the lane, but Duke gets the ball out. Best jumps for the pass at midcourt, so suddenly now there's 4 Duke guys down and only 2 fellas from Georgia Tech, and the result is preordained.
Brian Hill will come back into the ball game. Barry will sit down with his 4. At the line is Davis with 14 points. He leads the Duke Blue Devils. Did a great job defensively on Walt Williams yesterday. Held Walton 9 for 29. And he converts the 3-point play. Also scored 17 yesterday and pulled down 6 rebounds. He's just about there today. inside to Geiger, banks it in, his first bucket.
Did you notice, though, Tim, that each pass was contested, the shot was contested, Duke reacting very well defensively. It was a good, tough basket by Geiger.
Davis, Leitner keeps it alive.
Davis tried that three, missed it, so he was reluctant to try another one.
Leitner keeps it alive. Brian Davis for two.
He's had a great turn.
Oh, has he ever? 17 points, matches his game yesterday. Forrest fires, air ball.
We talked about Davis and Forrest as being two of the keys. Forrest only has one. Davis with the big, big game.
Here's Davis again. Oh, he feels it now. Geiger blocks it.
Well, you don't want to get carried away.
They'll call the block on Hurley.
The foul is against Hurley, but we're talking about transition defense for Georgia Tech. They're not getting back in contesting the Duke transition game. Hurley never really got himself set up in front of Best, but nonetheless, he's back there and playing defense in the transition.
Geiger open for the jumper. Mackey with the rebound, and he puts it away.
He's now got 16 points.
They double down on Leitner, and Geiger picks up his third.
Geiger reaching in and slapping at the basketball, and if you're Matt Geiger there, you might want to reach after the ball if Leitner's going to dribble it, but if he's going to hold it up, then there's nothing that's going to happen except the whistle's going to blow and you're going to pick up a personal foul.
Interesting comments by Mike Krzyzewski after the game yesterday. He was saying, you know, we're not there yet to where we were early in the year. He says, but if we can win a couple games in this tournament, get by the first weekend in the NCAA, we'll be okay. They look pretty strong today, don't they?
That's a confident guy. Here it is, you're in postseason play, and he's talking about how they're still working to get where they want to be. That's an actually scary thought for the opposition.
No question. I mean, he's thinking simply national championship now. Grandhill surprised by the pass, but a great pump fake, and the follow by Lang.
Just one of those days for Georgia Tech.
Just the same old pretty much for Duke.
I don't think Duke expected this kind of a game against Georgia Tech. There's almost another steal. I want to tell you something, Tim. Duke is ahead by 25 points. The ball is rolling in the corner. It's up in the air whether you get it or whether you don't. This guy's an All-American diving under the bench to get the ball.
That's why he's the National Player of the Year. Now word from our good friends at Budweiser.
Duke with the big, big lead, and the kind of intensity with which Duke has played has gotten them to this lead. Watch Leitner going after this basketball with a 25-point lead, gives up his body. We're going to get a pin here by Brian Hill. Leitner rolls off. Hill gets in there. Boom, there's the leg down. 1, 2, 3. Leitner's out. Georgia Tech has the ball. However, Duke with the 25-point lead.
Sonny Jurgensen gave me the stat of the tournament.
There's the stat of the tournament of this game right there. Boy, tough time for John Barry, for Forrest, and for the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets.
Sonny Jurgensen says, every team dressed in white has won thus far. That's the stat of the tournament.
Well, now that's true anytime a tournament goes according to Hoyle, Tim, because the highest seeded teams wear the white.
That's exactly right, but very rarely in the past have the ACC tournament's gone strictly according to Hoyle.
And what does Sonny know about basketball anyway?
Oh, Sonny was a great player. Great story, and I'll tell it in a second. Here's a nice pass back to Lang, and he's fouled. You know, there was a left-handed guy that played for Duke years ago named Charles Drizel. And the coach said, Lefty, to go find this new kid that had just come to Duke, All-American quarterback, All-American high school basketball player. They wanted him to come over to play basketball. Lefty never made a trip, came back and said the kid doesn't want to play. It was Christian Jurgensen. That's 4 on Matt Geiger.
Sonny and Lefty, no doubt, were built slightly differently in those days.
And still are. Lang bangs it around, but can't get it to drop.
His first miss from the free throw line for the Duke Blue Devils today. They're now 12 of 13. They are human.
Sophomore from Mobile gets that one to go down the hard way. And it's still Duke by a ton at the 15-minute mark.
Hurley still all over Best.
Travis Best, that's for 2. They're going to hit those shots. They better take another step backwards.
Good defense.
The turnover, Best pushes it and throws it away. Intended for Mackey, and that'll drive Bobby Crimmins nuts.
Well, it's got to be very discouraging for Bobby Crimmins, but I'll tell you what, Duke was back pretty well defensively.
True Value Dream Team home video is coming soon to participating True Value dealers, or you can order right now. 1-800-854-4800 is the number. That's 1-800-854-4800. Brian Hill took another shot.
He's had a tough tournament.
So Hill sits down, and
Hurley's out of the game, and Parks is in.
And Fred Vincent is also in. Mackey on Layton. Back out to Davis.
Georgia Tech's done a nice job keeping Leitner out of the offense.
And Brian Davis on the line. His shot short. Great effort to make the save, but couldn't quite get there.
Unfortunately, even though they've done a nice job controlling Leitner, Georgia Tech has not been able to control people like Brian Davis. And one of the things that makes Duke so dangerous is they have so many offensive weapons. It's hard to shut them all off.
Mackey has his shot blocked by Leitner, who loses it out of bounds.
Get a picture of Leitner's intensity there. He dove into the bench for a loose ball, and that time he gets, that's the 3rd time today that he's tried to strip the ball from Mackey. The other 2 times he was successful. He's very upset that he didn't get it that time. Boy, Newbill just gave Thomas Hill a pop on a screen.
Davis fights by the screen. Parr still goes by him with a good, strong move to the basket. He now has 5 points.
That's the kind of move that Bobby Crimmins wanted to see from him much earlier in the game. 20-point game. Georgia Tech has whittled a couple of points off the lead.
How about Leitner? How nice is that move? That's just 7 points for him. Mackey at the other end loses the handle, and here come the Blue Devils. No look pass to Leitner. Back to Hill. Easy bucket. And Georgia Tech will say, hold on. Timeout. 12:50 to go in the ball game. 61-37. Duke. Well, the Duke Blue Devil fans doing the war chant here at the Charlotte Coliseum during that break. I think they're looking ahead to Florida State.
Well, Duke is in a position, Tim, I think, that they can look ahead to whomever they want to. Florida State, however, is not in a position where they can look ahead to playing Mike Krzyzewski's crew. They've got the North Carolina Tar Heels. That'll be our next game. Leitner and Hurley on the bench. They've earned a bit of a rest.
Although you can say Florida State sure earned the respect of North Carolina during the regular season.
Well, that ought to be a very interesting basketball game. Florida State dominated the Tar Heels twice.
They're so much quicker. 61-37 is our score here. Blue Devils lead with 12:35 to go.
Blakeney in the basketball game for the Blue Devils.
John Barry fires for three. Nothing but net there. What a first step by Hill to free up.
Boy, he just glides to the basket. Funny lineup in the game for Duke.
Here's John Barry with another off-balance jumper, followed by Newbill. It's a 4-0 Georgia Tech run.
Well, you know what kind of a day they've had when it's a 4-0 run and they pull to within 19. Mike Krzyzewski resting some of his starters.
Look at the hustle by John Barry.
Boy, he hadn't quit all day, has he? That's just a great play by Barry. And Barry, you can see him at the end of the play. He's up off the court. He dove and knocked the ball away, and as the ball was out of bounds, he was trying to chase it down. And look at Barry, the pass, the ball knocked away. Barry dives, knocks it down. Now he's up. Here he comes. Boy, he bounces again, but he's up. He's coming after the basketball.
In his second year and final few games at Georgia Tech. Junior college transfer. Here comes Davis again, giving it up to Grant Hill. Hill makes it look so easy. Travis Best for three.
Bobby Kremen's up telling his team that they've got to switch on the screens that Grant Hill's using to get open for those easy shots in the lane.
Cuts the lead to 18 with 10:57 to go. Parks with a little jumper.
Parks did a nice job getting position inside. And as we've said, Tim, when you get this far down to the Duke Blue Devils, even with this lineup in the game now, they can still get after you. There, Parks is going to pick up the foul against Mackey.
That'll be his third.
Checking to make sure that he doesn't have to go see the dentist.
You made the point in the first half, though. Cherokee Parks has really given them some quality minutes.
And that just makes him so more effective when he can do them. So much more effective. Here in the North Carolina Tar Heels. Florida State Seminoles.
Second game of our doubleheader. Semifinals continue as the ACC Tournament rolls on in Charlotte. John Barry, nice pass to Geiger. And it's last touch by Duke.
Antonio Lang slapping at the ball while it was laying on his back.
And although the pass was a little bit low, I don't think Geiger was waiting for it.
Geiger was surprised by the pass because Barry held it so long. Barry very fortunate that he didn't get called for his fifth foul right there.
Mackey sets and hits.
Didn't take him long to get set either, Tim. He's a guy who's certainly come to play on the offensive end today. Georgia Tech doesn't have enough now for Mackey.
He has 18 of the 47 points. There goes Barry again, crashing into the table here. And the foul on Brian Hill.
You just heard Mike Krzyzewski say, why wasn't that a charge down on the other end? Mike, come on, buddy, you're up 18. You know, we've had some interesting shooting performances in this tournament. Now, the All-ACC first team is the worst in terms of shooting percentage, and most of them are gone.
I want to know how Sam Cassell stayed off that first team.
Well, the question is, who on that first team are you going to take off and put Sam Cassell on?
It's funny. This is what Billy Packer and I were talking about this at great length, and it is a tough decision, but he is just as worthy as anybody else on that first team for the most part.
Well, there's no question, and I would say that Hubert Davis is just as worthy as anybody else on that first team, and that happens every year in the ACC. You have 7 or 8 solid guys who've had great seasons, and you just can't put them all on the first team. Interestingly enough, the first team stiff. His team is no longer in the tournament. Barry with the jumper gets it.
Tough jumper, too, falling away.
Gugliotta, his team is no longer in the tournament. Walt Williams in Maryland eliminated. And Rodney Rogers in Wake Forest just eliminated. So Christian Laettner, the only member of the first team All-ACC who's still around.
Hurley was just drilled by Best and still on his way down made that great pass. That's only the second on Best, by the way. Blakeney and Parks. Well, Parks will sit down and Hill comes back in.
That stat right there is something that you alluded to before the basketball game, as Hill catches a great pass, tips it in. Nobody on this Duke team has ever been on an ACC tournament winner. The defending national champions, and they haven't won the ACC tournament title.
Although, you know, last year with the national crown in their pocket, if you just got the person on the street, a lot of them think they won the ACC tournament.
It's the second time today that Hurley has gotten the 5-second violation on Best, and you made the point that maybe Best needs to penetrate to the basket. That time he was backing up toward midcourt, and Hurley was all over him.
9:29 to go.
The Blue Devils actually got their clocks cleaned by North Carolina in last year's ACC Tournament championship game. They just were drilled.
On the ground.
Foul call against Malcolm Mackey.
You know, one of the best games I think I saw all year, Dan, was that first North Carolina Duke game when Carolina beat them. Outstanding game played by both teams.
Duke is one of those teams that tends sometimes to bring out the best of the opposition, particularly when they're playing on the road.
Eric Meek comes into the ball game now, a 6'10 freshman. Kentucky beats LSU.
Seton Hall and Syracuse, still a close ball game. Laettner at the line for a 1-on-1.
Of course, Shaquille O'Neal did not play in that ball game.
I really think after seeing the tape of that game, though, that Shaquille O'Neal, not only should he have been suspended, but I think Dale Brown should have been suspended too, because Dale Brown coming off the bench and attacking the guy from Tennessee is what caused that whole rigmarole there. That's embarrassing for a coach to do that.
8 points for Laettner in this ball game, and he has averaged 27 points, 9 rebounds over the last 7 games. Has been on a tear, but they've shut him down here. Inside to Mackey in the turnaround power move, and he's fouled. Hill with the foul, so Mackey will go to the line and try to convert the 3-point play.
13.
Malcolm Mackey continues to battle for position inside. Forrest shovels him the ball. Meek is there. Laettner's there. And Hill comes in and takes a swipe. Mackey, 20 points, 9 rebounds. You can see the kind of attention that he's been getting the entire game. Geiger tipped that.
Forrest will get credit, I believe. Doesn't make any difference whether it's Geiger or Forrest. Talking about Mackey, though, in the game he's having today, only 7 points yesterday. Bobby Hurley pulls up for 3. Correction, his foot was on the line. Forrest to Geiger. And Bobby Hurley was called for the foul. Thought he had pickpocketed him cleanly.
Now Laettner knocked the ball away again. Laettner, for all his other attributes, has some quick hands. Hurley very nearly came up with it. The big guys just can't be dribbling it around guys like Bobby Hurley. They'll get the ball the majority of the time.
John Barry. Took that from the NBA through.
Pretty good screen by Geiger. Barry got free, and you're right, Tim. He took a lot longer shot than he had to take. There was nobody anywhere near him.
Eight and a half minutes to go.
Laettner missed from 3. That's news.
Here comes Barry, pushes it up quickly to Mackey, who has to readjust his shot. Can't get it. Taken back up strongly, though, and Forrest gets the 2.
That's a pretty good job on the fast break by Georgia Tech. They have not had much success in their transition game. That time they beat Duke down the court, and Mackey was not expecting the pass, but he made a nice adjustment to catch the ball.
Time running out of the Yellow Jackets, under 8 minutes to play. And Grant Hill throws it away.
Mike Krzyzewski up. He wants a timeout.
72-55, Duke. 7:47 to play. Now a word from our good friends at Budweiser. Well, Georgia Tech pulling them a little bit closer, 72-55 with 7:47 to go. If there is one key to this game, it's been domination. But anyway, take us through the 4 keys.
Well, you just have to look at the point distribution and shooting percentage, and you can see where the real key to this ball game lies. The Duke Blue Devils, with their defense, have just really forced Georgia Tech out of any semblance of their offense. You can see Malcolm Mackey 9 for 10. The rest of the team 14 of 40. On the other hand, for the Duke Blue Devils, 4 players in double figures. They're shooting 61% from the field. Those things are very obvious, make it very obvious why Duke has the big lead with 7:47 left.
Barry frees up for the 3-point shot, and he has it.
And it's a 14-point game.
Making a little bit of a run here, Georgia Tech. 7:30 to go.
Georgia Tech, of course, too good a basketball team to just roll over and die. They've stayed with it. Duke has not been particularly sharp on offense, and they lose it again.
Great double down by Forrest, knocks it loose. Here comes Best. Barry's wide open. Hill had fallen down, gets it to Geiger, who buries it. It's a 12-point game. Best is called with a foul. Now, the largest Duke lead today, 25 points. Georgia Tech has pulled them down to 12, and still a lot of time to go, just under 7 minutes. Bobby's working hard over there, huh?
He's asking Travis Best why. He didn't need to foul Bobby Hurley in that situation. Hurley, of course, an excellent free throw shooter. Almost 80%, 79.8.
Sometimes you forget that Travis Best, James Forrest, just freshmen, this time last year playing high school ball. Although a lot of coaches believe at this point of the year, you can't call them freshmen anymore.
You certainly have seen everybody in the league twice. You ought to know what to expect. But Georgia Tech has been able to penetrate this Duke defense the last couple of minutes of the game. See if they're able to continue to do it. Geiger really working for position, and I think he's going to get called for a foul, and he is. He just pushed Leitner the last 4 feet under the basket.
And for Geiger, that'll be all. 5 personals, he'll be disqualified. He has been in foul trouble every game this year against Duke.
Geiger comes across the lane looking for position. Now watch Geiger, he's looking for position. Now he just backs in. You just can't do that. That's an excellent call. Leitner doing a good job establishing his position. Geiger gets caught. Boy, they certainly needed more than 4 points and 4 rebounds from him, and you know that he's discouraged.
Leitner pushes it to a 15-point game again. Not only has Matt Geiger had foul trouble against Duke this year, but Mackey has not played more than 26 minutes against Duke this season until today. For the same reason.
Duke is very effective at attacking you inside. Georgia Tech had it down to 12, but 2 fouls, and Duke in the bonus situation can score at the free throw line. Oh my.
It was a pretty pass, but they couldn't capitalize on it. Here's Barry trying to make the steal again, but Hurley with the layup. It's back to an 18-point game. Forrest hits. All of a sudden, Georgia Tech starting to heat up a little bit.
Bobby Cremins would have certainly preferred that the heat come a little earlier.
You've got that right.
We're under 6 minutes. Duke still with the 16-point lead. Now Duke looks like they're going to run some time off the clock. They have not been very sharp offensively the last 6 or 7 possessions. is actually pretty good work. You've got a very comfortable lead. You've got to be able to work the clock in a close game in a tournament.
Hill banks it too hard. Best pulls it down. Here we go. Yellow Jackets running ahead to Forrest, and he banks it in. 78-64.
Got to admire Georgia Tech.
You're absolutely right.
Well, they were down 25 points and nothing was going well for them, but they have not quit.
Oh, great look to Lang. Newbill and Mackey having some words.
That's a very frustrating afternoon for the Yellow Jackets. You're trying to trap, and anytime you have a trap, you have to rotate your defense to take care of the guys who may be open. Mackey just didn't get the rotation down quickly enough.
Says, all right, Newbill, I'm going down and talk to Coach about this.
Well, you get the idea that maybe Newbill was right because Bobby Cremens called Mackey over.
That's right.
Just like in life and basketball, you always know what somebody else should do.
Antonio Lang hits them both. He goes out. Hill comes back in. They just load and reload.
Antonio Lang, who did such a great job during the injuries, first the injury to Hurley, then the injury to Hill, but now Duke has their team, if you will, their starting lineup before those injuries in the game as we go down the stretch.
Last touch by Grant Hill.
Boy, Hill doing a great job battling over top of Malcolm Mackey, who does as good a job as anybody in the league in making himself big inside, but Grant Hill just wouldn't be denied.
Okay, you got a spot.
Travis Best from way outside. This foul will go against Forrest. Stay tuned for the Players of the Game Award, brought to you by Nations Bank. That shooting percentage from the free throw line just...
Well, the disparity there with Duke with so many more free throws, that's really not uncommon. Now, that much of a disparity is, but Duke traditionally shoots a great many more free throws than their opposition because Duke is constantly attacking the basket.
They're 75%, 74% from the free throw line as a team, so they're solid there, but you're right, they've made so many trips today. Well,
on the year, and this is a statistic that everybody knows about Duke, they have made more free throws by a long shot than their opposition has attempted.
Exactly.
Coming into the game, Duke with 605 makes, the opponents with 474 attempts. That means you're getting to the free throw line an awful lot. And then when you shoot 74%, that means you're converting.
Called for the foul. Draws a sarcastic cheer from the Georgia Tech faithful.
Hurley coming back from the injury, Tim, I've seen a couple of times today that he really has gotten down on himself on a couple of plays.
Hill had a notion.
Duke in a zone.
Mackey readjusts and hits. What a day he's having. Wow, 22 points for Malcolm Mackey. He averages just 16 a game. He is the only player left from that Final Four team at Georgia Tech. Left still playing on this club. And Laettner scores and is fouled by Mackey.
Duke spreads the floor. There's a lot of space for Laettner to operate. Watch Laettner just to cut across the lane. Mackey just loses him. You've got to see your man and the ball. Mackey turned his head. Laettner made him pay for it. Thomas Hill going out of the game. That's Clark coming in.
And that's 4 personals on Mackey. Leitner does not miss many when he gets to that line. You give them to him free, he capitalizes. 3:52 to go. 85-66 our score. We'll return after this from Pepsi. The Duke people again with the war chant. 3:52 to go. 85-66 Devils.
Well, of course, Florida State is playing against North Carolina, and a true Duke fan always likes to see North Carolina defeated.
Barry hands it off to Mackey, and they lose it. Grant Hill touches the line. I mean, as a player, as a broadcaster, you cease to amaze me. I mean, during the commercial timeout, you still have a running dialogue with the officials.
My experience with officials, though, is that you don't have much of a dialogue with them. They generally tell you.
Well, the dialogue exists. They just have the final say.
Mackey draws another foul.
3.5 minutes to go. Cherokee Parks will come back in, and Leitner will sit down.
You can see Parks has played enough in the ball game to be bloodied.
More to come in the Atlantic Coast Conference as the tournament continues, the 39th annual. The game that follows this, the semifinal game between North Carolina and Florida State. The Seminoles, of course, surprised a lot of people, but this is a club that just won the Metro Conference title several times. Has certainly been to the NCAA several times under Pat Kennedy.
Well, they had tremendous talent coming in, and they added Cassell and Sura. They're a very, very talented ball club.
And Barry makes the steal. Beg your pardon, but I think partly it was the arrogance of the folks in the Atlantic Coast Conference to believe that they wouldn't be much this year coming into the ACC.
Well, arrogance might be too strong a word, but let's use confidence.
Hasty generalization, you say? 85-67 is our score. Under 3 minutes to play.
No, sir, but when they write the letters, I want them to write them to you.
Clark pulls up with a jumper. Way too strong. And Hill scores. Chalk it up for 3.
15-point game. As you can see, though, time running out.
Inside the Parks they go with the turnaround. Mackey with another rebound.
Duke running time off the clock, though, before they squeeze the trigger. That's really all they have to do.
How about the jump stop by Hill and the little jump hook?
Obviously not intimidated by the 6'11 Parks.
Brian Hill's a stocky guy, 6'4", 230. A very well-schooled, well-drilled team. Look at this. Clark in the lane. Forrest has his shot blocked by Parks. Cherokee Parks has been impressive. .111 to go. Duke wants to call a timeout, sit down, and talk this over. We'll return after this from the Atlantic Coast Conference. Talking with Mike Krzyzewski, he says the key to Duke's success in this tournament has to be worried about what they do best. Just do their own thing. Play their own game. Don't be disrupted by what the other club is doing. And they certainly did that last night against Maryland, and they're doing it here against Georgia Tech.
We talked about Georgia Tech's shooting percentage in the first half, Tim, and it was only 30%. In the second half, Georgia Tech is 21 of 30. They're shooting 70%, but interestingly enough, at this point in the game, you shoot 70% and they've only cut 3 points off the halftime margin. Duke had an 18-point lead at halftime. It's a 15-point lead now, so it's another example of how well Duke has played. Georgia Tech shot 70%, and Duke still has 15 of their 18-point lead.
And I don't think anybody should be surprised by that. Duke led the nation in field goal percentage all year.
Well, once you get that far down, obviously you're not going to come back simply by trading baskets, and that is in effect what has happened. Duke's also been able to get to the free throw line frequently, and as is typical with the Duke Blue Devils, they have converted. They've basically cleared the bench now. That's why Mike Krzyzewski called that timeout, I think, to get his subs in the game and to make sure everybody knew what they were supposed to do once they got in there. One of the things was not to foul, but
Clark does that right away.
There's the Duke bench.
They deserve those fives.
Brian Davis, Bobby Hurley.
Forrest at the line shooting 1 and 1. Both teams over the limit now.
You got to look at John Barry. That's a young man who's played very hard today.
Clark gets in the book here with a bucket and a couple of rebounds and a foul. So he's in the stats. A little reverse move there to Christian Aston. Followed by Parks. We'll go the other way.
Well, Clark, he's just trying to fill out the line. Gonna get a couple free throws. They have something everywhere.
Ast, Meek, Blakely, Clark, and Parks on the floor for Duke.
Parks getting a little instruction from Mike Krzyzewski. Number one, he's telling him, don't push that guy out of the way. Number two, watch hanging on the rim for quite so long.
1 and 1. Farr shooting 1 and 1.
Unfortunately for Georgia Tech, as James Forrest now has 14, most of them have come when the game was already decided. He only had 1 in the first half.
He is going to be a terrific player, though. Here's a guy that Bobby Cremins has known since he was 12 years old. Georgia High School Player of the Year. Has had a terrific year this year. In the running, perhaps the leading candidate as Rookie of the Year. Sharon White will be in there, and Sura also.
Meek gets one. I really think the Rookie of the Year is Bob Sura.
Well, that's the one we just talked about. Sura certainly has had a great year. And unlike Forrest, he didn't start from the beginning of the year, but worked his way into that lineup, and he's been terrific.
John Barry still working out there. There's 31.4 seconds left in the game, and he's taking a charge. You know, we talked about Christian Laettner going into the bench with a big lead. Well, why in the world, if you're John Barry, unless you like to play, and the only way you know is to play hard, take a charge. That's why he did it.
Under 30 seconds to go. Back to Best. Hill, way short, but look who gets the rebound underneath with the big guys. It's Barry.
He's going outside. It's game
15 seconds left. Barry for 3. Mackey, power move. That'll do it. Blow the horn, end it. Duke moves on to the title game. And now they'll wait for the winner of the Florida State-North Carolina game. 89-76 is the final. We'll be back with our post game after this. Stay with us.
ACC basketball has been brought to you by Budweiser, Nationwide Insurance, Central Fidelity, Pepsi, Nations Bank, Ford, and by US Air.
Two teams on the floor. North Carolina, Florida State get ready for the next game. The first game ended.